industry innovators and leaders. We're going to be hearing from about Project Catalyst, an innovation engine at work and its global impact. From Kriss Baird, the general manager at Project Catalyst, and Tim Harrison, the VP of Community and Leadership at Input Output. Let's give a big round of applause for them.
So I'm Tim Harrison, EVP of Community and Ecosystem at Input Output, and I'm joined here by Kriss Baird, who's the general manager of Project Catalyst. Kriss, let's dive straight in. We've got lots to talk about, lots of exciting things to share. So Kriss, perhaps before we dig too much into Catalyst, let's dig a little bit into you. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, your professional journey, and how you ended up at Catalyst.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So first of all, it's a real pleasure to be here, everyone. My first time at Rare Evo, Catalyst team's first time here, so we're really pleased to be here. So my backstory, my origin is that I think I'm probably one of the first Cardano fans. I've been spiritually invested, shall we say, quite literally since day one. Before there was a YouTube presence, before there was communications coming out from IO, I was already aware of Cardano as the Japanese Ethereum, and yeah, my background before that. If we step back to the global financial crash, I was part of the problem, not part of the solution. Let me put it that way. And then left the finance world and stepped into the technology. And I worked for a number of years for the UK's equivalent of DARPA, called Innovate UK, where I was a lead technologist, and I established and then delivered dozens of nation-scale digital innovation platforms, which funded startups, scale-ups, and institutions to develop digital solutions in response to industrial challenges. So, you know, this idea of funding is definitely within my wheelhouse. And if we step back to those days at Innovate UK, I saw a big problem, which is typically all of the decisions about who actually gets the funding is made by typically a handful of white dudes, and that's about it. Maybe there's a bit of diversity within that, but ultimately it's a handful of people that play God and make the decisions for tens of millions or hundreds of millions of pounds worth of innovation, public funding, to go out and grow ecosystems. And I find that a big problem. So when Charles and my predecessor announced Catalyst at Summit, I believe in 2020, it was very exciting. It was like, this seems like it's something that I would love to continue following. I then got somehow engaged with team members from Input Output, and someone said to me, I think you should come and work with us. And so, you know, cut forward to 4 years later, and we've effectively developed the largest innovation platform for decentralized funding in the world. So
tell us a little bit about that founding. Here we go. So tell us a little bit about that founding vision for Catalyst and what particularly excited you, and then maybe just give us a quick overview for anyone who doesn't know how Catalyst works, what it is.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the genesis idea here is, first of all, how do you bootstrap an ecosystem in a decentralized way? How do you help the Cardano community to play an active role in shaping the future of their ecosystem and give them the experience and the tools and exposure to opportunities for them to play a role in decentralized governance? And what do we mean by that? We mean decision making. We mean people caring about the causes that are presented to them and taking action. So, you know, what does that mean in practice? Well, Catalyst is a grant funding program like no other. I think that's how we can say it. We enable the community, and by community, that's a very broad term. Every single person in this room right now could technically be a community member. Most of you are already, and you are afforded the opportunity within Catalyst to submit a proposal with your great idea, requesting funding from the Catalyst Innovation Program to develop maybe use cases or grassroots marketing campaigns, or maybe growing new features, new capabilities with your established product. And then your submissions and proposals go into a Catalyst funding round. The community then takes all of those proposals and reviews them and gives their opinion on what those, how they think those proposals meet against the criteria or the scope of the intent of the Catalyst funding round. And then those opinions are then translated into a voting application, and then the voting populace at large can read those opinions, they can read the proposals, and ultimately vote to decide whether they see those projects realized. That's just one half of the story. That's when all the votes are counted, and we know which projects are funded. And then from that, those projects start getting funded. And so they go through an onboarding process. They create a statement of milestones where they set out what are they going to be, are their milestones, what are the deliverables, what are the acceptance criteria for those deliverables, and what evidence are they going to show to the community that they've achieved on those deliverables. And then we're funding the project to reach milestone 1. So you don't get all the funding up front, you just get a portion of it. At the point where you've delivered milestone 1, you then come back and you prove your achievement to the community. The community then signs off on your deliverables, and you are then greenlit to go proceed to milestone 2 and receive funding for that. And, rinse and repeat until the project ends.
So at Rare Evo, I think this week you've published your Catalyst Horizons report. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Catalyst Horizons report, and I'm going to move forward now, is our first report that really begins to unpeel the sheet or peel back the sheets and uncover some of the data that sits within the Catalyst corridors. There's an incredible wealth of data with an amazing data set. So the picture that you've just seen on the screen now, we've just completed Fund 12. And so this data is up until before the Fund 12 votes had been counted. So at that point, we were 1,639 projects into Project Catalyst. Now that we're at Fund 12, we're now at 1,891 projects. So another 250 odd has just been added to this already. In the last 4 years, we've funded 223 million ADAs worth of projects in terms of allocations. And what that translates to is over $100 million worth of value allocated to projects within the Cardano ecosystem, which is just tremendous, really. So the point is, for the Horizons report, is really to celebrate all of you builders, you creators, and you participants, whether it's voting or community reviewing or helping to moderate that milestones and deliverables are met. This report is really a celebration of all your hard work.
So there's a lot of very useful sort of quantitative data in the Horizons report. There's some nice qualitative call-outs as well. It's hard to pick favorites, but maybe just call out a few of the use cases you've seen through Catalyst that stand out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's really difficult to pick any one or few projects. So we had to start somewhere. And within the report, we called out 6 projects that represents a diverse range of the sorts of use cases that we've supported. So maybe just before we talk about the individual projects, it's worthwhile looking at how the report was put together. So we effectively segmented and grouped every single project by one of 13 domain areas. So from community and outreach through to sustainability projects, every single one of the nearly 1,900 projects now has been grouped in this way. And so the Catalyst Horizons report has called out 6 of these use cases effectively of Catalyst funding. And to talk about these, Tap Tools is one of them. I'm sure many of us here are familiar with Tap Tools, an all-in-one platform that has had its starting moments within Catalyst. The community has voted to approve new features and capabilities that have really extended the value proposition of what Tap Tools offers. Another such project, which maybe you guys have heard about, is this blockchain convention called Rare Evo. It started out its journey within Catalyst. It was a proposal. They'd already booked the Gaylord Rockies venue, and they waited for you guys in the community to greenlit their proposal. If you hadn't, I don't know what would happen. I don't know where we'd be right now. And then, within a few weeks, they actually delivered the Rare Evo event. And a couple of days later, they submitted their proof of achievements, which signed off, and then they received all of the funding to basically cover their costs. So that's another great events use case and marketing platform. And then I think one of the final one that I want to talk about at this moment is the Tribal DIDS project, which I think is a really, really interesting use case of identity and security. So this was a project that was led by Jo Allam and her design team down in New Zealand. And they implemented an Atala Prism or Identis implementation use case that enabled the indigenous tribes within the New Zealand islands and archipelago to adopt a tribal registry process that is not legitimately seen in the eyes of any nation-state government. Yet it is the legitimate way that these tribes and these members of these tribes have operated for many, many years. So what do we mean by that? Well, these tribes have adopted a registration process that comes with metadata. This metadata is all of the conventions and forms of how the different tribe members are sort of seen and what status they have within their community. And this has all been now implemented on chain, where each of these tribes and tribal members now have their own decentralized digital identities that are linked to their registrations as part of their community. And as I said, this is a really powerful use case, which is giving identity to a population of people that are largely forgotten within the contexts of how we sort of operate in society today. And there are countless other use cases or examples of where that is happening all around the world. And so in just a short amount of time, relatively speaking, from Catalyst starting out as just a great experiment, we're now seeing real world use cases having real world impact that are generating this impact that is impacting the real world lives of people that are often forgotten. And I think those are the sorts of stories that are really powerful and really helps to demonstrate the mission-led principles of the Cardano ecosystem and how we would like to see the world actively shaped around us.
Yeah, so I mean, Catalyst has really been a story of continuous improvement. And indeed, your weekly town halls, I think maybe they're still preceded, but they were always preceded with welcome to the experiment, things may break. So there was a very knowing sense of continuously identifying ways to improve. Maybe highlight a couple of the things that you've done more recently that have kind of improved the Catalyst experience and capability.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also going to touch on, I'm going to try and fly back to a couple of slides as well. I mean, maybe before we talk about improvements specifically, I just want to highlight a couple of other really key points about this report. So what we've seen over the last 4 years is a real distribution of projects across all 6 continents. And I think what's really powerful is, we would expect to see North America and Europe, where there's a lot of development expertise already, as taking up a fairly significant portion of the funding. But what's really powerful is to know that about a third of the funding already has gone into the emerging markets, where the resources and the ADA that's allocated and distributed to those communities really goes a lot further. And you create these conditions where you've now got ecosystem players and development shops that are growing up all over Asia, and they're really growing their capabilities and their standing within this ecosystem. So coming back to your question, Tim, about what are the sorts of changes that we've implemented over recent funds? Well, Catalyst until fairly recently was pretty open. Anyone could submit any proposal and as many proposals as you'd like. And what you saw is, there seemed to be at least a perception that the funding wasn't going it wasn't being as distributed as widely as possible. So it's quite simple changes. We've implemented things like you can only submit a certain number of proposals per funding round. If you're a part of a team that is submitting dozens of proposals, actually it's only going to be the first 6 in this instance that are going to be counted. We've also implemented some really great operational efficiencies and innovations such as, I said, the community-driven accountability process, which means that it's not the Catalyst team that is saying this project is delivered on its commitments and it is now considered complete. We empower the community to play that role, to look at, has this project delivered the outcomes that it's set out to do in its proposal? Are those translated into key deliverables that I understand and can demonstrably see evidence of? This, I think, is a really key turning point in the evolution of Catalyst, because now we can say we've got the most decentralized operations of the grants providers in the Web3 space, and I would argue on orders of magnitude of how many people actually participate in these processes. So if we think about community accountability and community-led innovation as being some of the key principles and tenets and of what we do within Catalyst, then how do we think about scoping the future rounds of Catalyst? Well, we need to use the community to do so. So over the last 3 months, we've implemented a Catalyst Working Groups initiative, which has seen 24 working groups all around the world, 15 of them in person, from all 6 continents, as well as 9 online working groups that are really trying to answer some of the tough questions.
Enjoying the event? Fire up that wallet and delegate your ADA to Rare Stake Pool. For over 3 years, Rare has been committed to providing high-quality staking services. And we're now Chang Hard Fork ready. Thank you for your support.
What are the priorities for this ecosystem going forward? What have we maybe funded too much of? What are the operating parameters within Catalyst that could do with some love and attention and maybe some changes in the future? And how can we help to incubate and accelerate and bring new investors and professional investors into this ecosystem to help the grantees and the Cardano ecosystem at large not rely on Catalyst grants and resources exclusively? And these working groups have produced a phenomenal amount of insights. We gave a presentation yesterday around some of the summaries of these insights. And these are the sorts of ideas that are going to carry Catalyst forward into the future, enabling the community to play more of an active role in what decisions need to be made to help Catalyst continue to grow and provide the value that we demonstrate to the community on a daily basis.
So that's obviously about sort of improving the quality of experience for participants, but sort of looking at the macro of participation, what kind of level of participation are you seeing from Catalyst relative to the size of the wider community, and where do you want that to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with a couple of key areas. So we've cast as a community almost nearly 3 million votes in Catalyst alone. So you guys in the community, of which there's around about, give or take, about 8,000 wallets that are participating in Catalyst at any one point. 3 million votes have been cast by you guys, and I think that's almost 3 million votes. That's a tremendous achievement in and of itself. And within that, those votes, there's the ADA that you guys use as your voting power, your influence on the decisions. And in the last 3 funds, give or take, around about 7 to 8% of total circulating supply, or 5% of total supply of ADA has been used to power the decision-making process of Catalysts. Now, if you look at what this means against the legacy world, I think, in the UK or the US, like shy of 30% of the population participates. So the fact that we've got nearly 5% of the population, a total supply of ADA participating in Catalyst, and that we're still growing, we're still bringing on and onboarding new members and participants every single round. I think that's a really, really remarkable achievement. Beyond that, we've funded nearly 1,900 projects now from nearly 9,000 proposals. So that's more than a 1 in 5 opportunity rate, right? That's pretty good odds. You don't see that in typical investment circles. You certainly don't see that in grant circles. We've had 8,000 reviewers performing nearly 80,000 community reviews of proposals. These are all pretty incredible numbers and phenomenal. And as I said, we're only really just getting started.
And of course, Catalyst has just closed, relatively recently in July, closed Fund 12. What are maybe some of the highlights from that, and also some of the things that you've introduced during that fund? Yeah,
so again, I think this is really the power of the crowd, right? You guys in Fund 12, you voted multiple layer 2 solutions to be realized and start development. You might have come across Midgard, which is a scalability solution. This is now beginning to take flight and deliver on their commitments. We've also seen, I think there's Oracle solutions. Winter Protocol is developing out, which is going to be an aggregator of Oracle inputs, I believe. And we see a whole host of great use case concepts that are also beginning to take shape as well. Catalyst in the last, say, 2 or 3 rounds has also begun to sort of streamline the sorts of categories that you guys would be applying into, so that everybody basically understands exactly where they fit. So over the last 2 rounds, we've now got 6 categories, and the newest one that's been introduced is Cardano Partners. Before we talk about that, we'll touch on the other categories first of all. So we have these Cardano use case categories: concept, MVP, and product. And importantly, these are for the different sort of stages of maturity of your project. it makes no sense for the earliest stages of ideas to compete directly with the communities that are voting on the proposals that are put forward by the most well-known projects in this ecosystem. They're certainly not unicorns. There are no unicorns in this ecosystem. We're all still startups. So, but if you're putting forward your first proposal, you're just a guy in the garage, or a guy or girl in the garage with a great idea at this point. You don't want to be going up against some of the most well-known names. So we've created the conditions which allow the earliest stages of ideas to compete against the other earliest stages of ideas, and the later stage of ideas to fight it out amongst themselves. Beyond that, we have Cardano Open, a category dedicated to open source development principles and supporting open source developers to maintain and develop more integrated developer environments. And then the Cardano Open ecosystem track, which is about grassroots marketing campaigns. So these are all the makeup of Cardano Fund 12 or Catalyst Fund 12. And then we introduced the Cardano Partners and Real World Integrations category, which was ticket sizes of 500,000 ADA up to 2 million ADA proposals. And this was really to entice and motivate and inspire institutions and enterprises and really well-known stakeholders and brands and organizations to come and participate in Catalyst and get funding and support from the community. So we've seen real-world applications and real-world assets being voted in by the community. We've seen NMaker and the Finest organization that are bringing real-world assets and a legal process to be able to deliver digital securities or digitized securities to tokenized securities for all intents and purposes with Chartered Investments, which is one of the largest investment organizations on the planet. We've seen the Liquid Finance team bring Apex Group, an investment manager that holds $3 trillion worth of assets under management. They are going to be tokenizing gold on the Cardano blockchain. And then we're seeing, a host of other projects that are going to come out of this Cardano Partners category. And I think my favorite, if I'm honest, which sort of is somewhat speaking to one of the holy grails of blockchain, is a project that's going to launch, is launched in Japan in partnership with the Shikoku Prefecture, so an actual government region of Japan. And they're going to be implementing DAOs into the Tokushima region and Takamatsu City in particular, where they will be putting DAOs and having local communities use DAOs to make decisions on social use cases and contexts within their local environment. So imagine local councils using DAO tools to make decisions on how they're going to make changes to their city over the course of the next year. These are the sorts of exciting innovations that I'm really, really proud to have seen realized with Fund 12. And we want to see this grow and continue in Fund 13.
So Fund 13, you said it first, comes after 12. When can we expect to see that, and what else are we going to see in the next kind of fund? Yeah,
so, first and foremost, I'm hoping that all of you participate, right? Fund 13 is intended to, not change the shape and format of Catalyst a great deal. I think we're beginning to rest upon a winning formula now, where we've got really clear categories and areas where people understand where they should spend their time and efforts, and it's not overwhelming. There's gone are the days where there are 12 to 20 categories within Catalyst for you guys to have to interpret and understand the nuances of each, and then all of the proposals that sit within it. So we're just going to try to stick with the same 6 categories, generally speaking, within Fund 13. We intend to launch at the end of September, and all being well, decisions will be wrapped up before the end of this year, with projects kicking off in January. But we're doing this against the backdrop and in tandem and in lockstep with the Cardano Constitutional Convention and all of the great work with the Constitution Committee, Interim Constitutional Committee that's being spun up. So, we need to think about, well, what does Catalyst look like against, the era of Voltaire? Well, I would say that, we're really fortunate to have been probably the first institution funded by the Treasury over the last 4 years, and in Fund 10, that got the mandate from you guys in the community to continue our great work this year. We would, be honoured and privileged to continue providing these services to the Cardano community, but it's up to you guys to decide whether you want to see Cardano use Catalyst as a vehicle for funding startup innovation. We think that we have really matured the processes and the accountability steps within Catalyst, so that we know that projects deliver on their intentions. We're now at a point where nearly 1,000 projects have completed their Catalyst-funded projects. That's a tremendous achievement. They are doing this all with receipts, so they're delivering with their evidence. And I would imagine that over the next few months, as we lead into Fund 13, we're going to eclipse 1,000 projects funded, and hopefully see another 250 to 300 projects funded with Fund 13. Where I think we can make maybe some sensible changes is probably to understand that there's not really that much difference between a Cardano use case concept proposal and that of a Cardano use case MVP proposal. So maybe we can consolidate there. We can make affordances to streamline a little bit. Differently, but sort of similarly, the Cardano Partners and Real World Integrations category was very much a pilot, where there was 3 principal pillars, right? Real world integrations with enterprises, marketing activations to bring mainstream adoption, and then how do we get accelerators and professional investors to start participating. But those aren't really apples for apples, pillars, right? We've got a largely technical community, and so it wasn't surprising that in Fund 12, the community favored technical implementations of real-world assets and applications over marketing activations and accelerator programs. But yet these sorts of marketing endeavors and accelerator programs are really, really important. And in Fund 12, we had one of, if not the leading accelerator program, the world's most active accelerator program, coming to the Cardano community and asking for funding to deliver accelerator programs for Cardano. This is Techstars. I know Techstars really well. I've worked with them over the years in my previous life, and they are going to continue to submit a proposal. And I think it's just a question that people didn't know them quite as well as maybe some of us did. So we'd like to create conditions that allow for maybe these sorts of less well-known stakeholders, but who hold the keys to unlocking really tremendous value in the community going forward, allow them an opportunity to compete in a more equitable way, so they're not having to compete against projects that are maybe more favored by the technical community that we appeal to.
So Catalyst, it's been an incredible journey over the 12 funds, Fund 13 coming up before the end of the year. Where can people find out more about Catalyst if they want to dig into the Horizons report?
Absolutely. So if you were to scan the QR that's on the screen right now, or visit projectcatalyst.io, our home for all things Catalyst, you'll be able to, first of all, download the report or access it on your phone. You can join the Catalyst community just by being an ADA holder. We are hopefully going to make some changes to the threshold of ADA that you need to hold to participate in voting. Maybe you want to submit a proposal. Maybe you're not ready to submit a proposal, but you'd quite like to offer your opinion on the proposals that are submitted. All of these things are possible. Perhaps you want to help to verify that deliverables were met. As I said, there are many different roles that you can play within Catalyst, but the important point is that you play a role. So I would ask you, if you could help to make decisions towards causes that you care about, would you want to or not? I think the answer for most people is yes. If you can play more of an active role, you probably should. We're providing the tools and the opportunities for you to do so, and we hope and are really welcoming of your opportunity to play that role alongside us.
So Kriss, congratulations to you and the team for everything you've built with Catalyst, but particularly congratulations to the whole Cardano community for making it really what it is, and here's to many more Catalyst funds to come. Thank you, Kriss.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Rare Evo 2025 tickets are on sale now. Save big. General admission passes are discounted to $250, and VIP passes are only $800. Join us August 7th through 9th, 2025 at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Hurry, only 30 days left to save. Visit rareevo.io and buy your tickets now.